my name is Zobi. I'm joined by Scuttt from Vitality following their loss to Leviathan today. First off, commiserations on the loss.
Thank you.
The basis for this interview is kind of more building out like your backstory a little bit more than the match today, because like I was trying to do research on you and like was having a harder time finding like good like documentation of it, essentially, like aside from what's on Wikipedia and stuff. So it's just gonna be more about you, and like there's some stuff about like the current team and stuff, but it's also a focus given lost as well. So first off, I like starting very, very simple because I think it's fun. Just what got you into competitive gaming? It doesn't have to be Valorant, just in general, even if it was a different title.
I mean, I followed Counter-Strike and played Counter-Strike for a long time, and I always loved TAC FPS. And then CS2 came out, and I didn't like CS2 that much, so I moved to Valorant. And I was always kind of a competitive guy. I always liked video games, but I was sailing back home for a long time, and then I got an injury, so I couldn't sail as much anymore. So I got more into video games, and then I had some time in university, joined a esports club, and played a lot there, basically. Yeah.
Where'd you go to uni?
I went to Trinity in Dublin.
I don't know too much about the college system. I was just curious. All right, and then I did see like there are like I think you've won VLR game as a player, and you said you're a competitive person. What was in the shift like from like I guess wanting to be a player like in an esports environment maybe to like coaching?
I mean, I never really wanted to be a player that much. I always found like my strength was in the thinking aspect, and I didn't really want to invest all that time into grinding ranked and like playing deathmatch and stuff. I just much preferred like thinking about stuff, and I had like some experience coaching in sailing, so I knew how to like present things to people, and so I thought that would be a more natural fit. So like my only VLR game, I think I was just standing in as a coach, and like beyond that, I was always just like I much preferred like the camaraderie, or I enjoyed the camaraderie of being in a team anyway, but I always preferred like being in a coaching role compared to a playing role.
Very, very cool. And obviously, I think more recently when you've gotten into the Tier 1, right, it was the three main orgs, BBL, Fnatic, and then here. And I was curious then, just seeing how that influenced you as a coach and like in each role, you know, obviously was an analyst over with BBL. So if you had one word to describe your time with each org, what would it be and why?
I think BBL was insightful because it's my first time working with Tier 1 players, and I had a lot of ideas, but I had to learn how to deal with like their differing opinions, which are very strong. Fnatic overall was just enjoyable. Like I had a great time with them. I really enjoyed the vibe on the team. I really enjoyed everyone there. I think this one is still ongoing, and I would say like overall it's been challenging. I've had to like push myself a little bit further, and like because last year, for example, I had Boaster on Fnatic, who's always able to like bail you out basically if things don't go right. And on this team, it's a lot of it is resting on your shoulders to make sure you give the guys exactly what they need to win. Today, for example, like we didn't, and that's just a shame. But overall, it's just been a lot more challenging in terms of like very enjoyable to work with the guys, but challenging in terms of like how much there is to do. Like last year, I thought I worked a lot, but this year it's like even more than that. Yeah.
That's nice insight, and I have a question that digs a little bit deeper into that as well a little bit, but obviously there was a big talk of this was like a reunion with Powell, but instead of being an analyst, I guess, do you call yourself a co-coach or an assistant coach in Vitality with it?
I mean, I'm not too fussy. Powell would say that we're co-coaches, but for me it's like, there's a lot of head coach things that I don't want to handle, to be honest.
What are they?
I mean, I won't go too into detail, but just like management stuff and like, stuff outside of the game, basically. I'm very much so, like, I just like to be on the same level as the players in terms of, like, I don't want to be, like, above them or anything. I just want to talk about the game with them, basically, and help them, like, understand my perspective on things. So I think from my perspective, I'd say I'm, like, an assistant coach. Powell would say I'm a co-coach. I don't know what the boys would say, but I think they just see us all as coaches. So.
Yeah, and so the cool question that I was wondering is, like, how is it different then from being like an analyst with BBL with Powell then versus now this co-coach structure?
I mean, I think when I was on BBL, analyst was more just the title per se, because we were like functioning as assistant coach.
Okay.
Like we had Mark New as well, so he was head coach, and then me and Powell were basically functioning as assistant coaches, him in person and me remote.
Okay.
So it's more or less the same. We already had like a lot of experience working together before, so.
And I think you touched upon this, kind of the challenges that come with being under Vitality without having Ghost of Block on. Like, it is your responsibility. But I wanted to touch on like the decision to move then from Fnatic to Vitality a little bit more, because I was like digging through your tweets and it did say like the whole reason was embarking on new challenges to grow further and become a better coach.
Yeah.
And so I guess like I want, if you would like to, you can elaborate more on that decision. If not, then I guess like checking in on those goals and how they've been met so far when you made the decision to transition.
I mean, it was exactly that. Like, I would have happily stayed on Fnatic, but I also wanted to improve even more, and I knew that on Fnatic I'd learned, I wouldn't say I've learned everything I had to learn there, but I'd learned a lot already, and I thought just a different perspective and different people to be surrounded with would like show me new ideas and help me to keep improving. So I think like in terms of like how I'm going with those goals, like definitely I think I've improved like a lot this year. In terms of how we do game plans, in terms of like how we're approaching the game in a technical aspect, in terms of being able to convince my arguments with the boys and stuff, and like they're all the skills that I really want to improve upon. So I'm overall very happy. Like Vitality's been fantastic. The organization is great. Everyone around the team, the management has been brilliant at helping. Like they know my goal is to always just get better and play good Valorant, so they help a lot with doing that. So.
It's amazing. And obviously, Kron was with Fnatic more recently than like Durka, for example. But have you noticed anything like that you're able to carry over between orgs that like it's like either like shorthand or like just like things that made it easier to move to a new org with them? With Durka was a while ago, I know.
Yeah, I mean, I never worked with Durka, but I'd worked with Kron like most of last year. So we already had like a relationship and knew how to work with each other, basically, which is very helpful. And then basically from there it was just us extending like our vision of how to work with people like amongst the whole team, and the team doing the same back to us, and then we came to like some common grounds basically. And often you just need like officials to see where things are going wrong and right, and it took us a couple of officials to lose to figure that stuff out, and then things clicked a little bit better.
I'm glad you're talking about the clicking and the start of this season, because that's where we're headed next. I'm a caster, that's my background, and I got to help out with Project Blender at the beginning of this season when Vitality was a bit rough around the edges, where everyone was like, oh no, a super team that's going to fail kind of vibes. And I think it's been covered extensively in the press conferences, like how fast you guys found your identity, how fast it clicked. But I wanted to know, like, from a coaching perspective, when you started to see those things click, and what role you specifically as like a co-coach played in that, and how you see it translate into the server.
I mean, I knew the potential was there. Like, firstly, I think the like super team narrative with us is not exactly accurate, because we have like rookie player, like Profex never played international before. This is his first one. Yampi's basically still a rookie IGL, even though like he is great. He's still like learning a lot of things and learning to play at a higher level, like IGL at a higher level. And then we have obviously Kron and Durka, who are superstar players in themselves, but I don't think that would like count as a super team per se. We had to figure out a lot of things about how like our visions can connect in the team, because at the start there was quite a bit of friction about how people view the game and stuff, and we just had to basically show more and more examples of like where X person was right or Y person was right, and then come into like a solid combination basically. So now the way that we like approach things, the way we play the game, is not like just Pal's vision or just my vision or just Yampi's vision. It's like a combination of like everyone in the team and how they view things and how they've inputted on stuff. And once we got that moving forward, then it was plain sailing from there basically.
Amazing. And then my only question about today's match, which you kind of touched on, saying like you didn't feel like you prepared them the best for like what came in the server today, necessarily versus Leviathan. I wanted to know, like, this is kind of the question that I asked to the players at the press conference, just how I guess like expectations and preparation for the match then differed from what actually happened in the server, and like things that you wish you had prepared them for that you couldn't have, or just kind of things along those lines.
I mean, I think when I'm talking about preparation today, I think we just prepared too much.
Oh, okay.
Like, I think we were so on the ball with what they could do and how we could beat it, and we stopped playing the game ourselves. Like, there's so many situations where people are focusing so much on what they could be about to do because we know what they like to do, and we don't just listen to the guy saying that there's 3 guys outside C. And it was just many situations like that today. Similar thing happened against Paper X, and that's something that we can take this experience from this tournament and go and figure out how we're going to implement those things better, so that the boys are still empowered to play their game, but still being aware of the things that can happen in the server and how they're going to solve them.
I love your line of thinking because that's exactly where we're headed next. It's like then like big picture takeaways for the tournament. If there's anything else that isn't encapsulated in like, okay, this is what works, that what doesn't, with you having such a nice regional run and your spot at champs not necessarily being solidified because of the stage one. So I guess like, what are other takeaways and what is then the focus for stage two aside from like generally translating things from what worked here and what didn't?
Yeah, I mean, like the takeaways are just we need to go away and reflect a little bit on how things are done before the games. I think in the games we've dealt with a lot of our problems, which were like nerves and pressure and stuff, and we've gotten over them in many senses. And now it's just a case of like how we translate information to the boys and how the boys kind of help impact on like the theoretical stuff in the game that we want to do. And if we solve those two things, I think we're in a much better position. Today, to be honest, it was just a breakdown of like the ideas that we had and just not being able to execute them. And it happens. Like I'm not too worried about it.
Makes sense. And speaking of that stage two, obviously you're in a group with BBL, Foot, General Mates, Navi, and Pacific. Who are you looking forward to facing the most and why? And that's the last question.
I mean, I always like playing BBL because like they're a really fun team to play. I have a lot of respect for them. I think they're super good. But I think come stage two, there'll be so much time between when we last played a lot of these teams, apart from Foot, I guess. But there'll be so much time since we last played a lot of these teams. I think like it's up for anyone. Like when you have this time off and other teams are at events, you have so much time to prepare new things and come with new ideas and rebuild all of your systems.
New meta.
Yeah, exactly. And I think. Yeah, a lot of these teams can come back and surprise people. Like last year, we had Giants surprising a lot of people in stage two, and I think same thing can happen.
Well, amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak
Thank
to me
you.
even after a loss. Good luck in stage two and hopefully at champs.
Thank you.